Scott, what's up, dude? So do you remember the last time we talked? Do you remember when I talked to you when I was building an app and you were on the Minecraft thing? You were about to go talk to another big trampoline park operator. Remember this? And I was talking to you
over a year ago.
I was talking to you about my game day parking app where if it doesn't ring a bell, that's not a good sign. I abandoned it.
No, it does. It's 2 years ago. It's 2 years ago. But I've heard like at least 10 parking apps. So I'm trying to remember the game day parking app.
So here's my claim to fame. If you tell me to bring it back, I totally will. It's all the Xcode is saved somewhere. I can make it live tomorrow if you think it's a good idea. The idea was you live close.
It's premium parking, right?
You live close to a stadium. It's for games. So instead of doing the cash on like cash parking, $5 lots on people's parking lots, you reserve it on the app. The people that are parking, it's basically doing it for, and actually the interesting thing is, obviously, we had an idea as we were getting started, like, oh, maybe we should pivot this to like, instead of like trying to reserve parking for games, because who's going to keep an app for like that problem that they run into on like one or two times a year trying to advertise and all that stuff. Why don't we try to position it to garages and people trying to store their stuff? This is like 6 months before like Neighbor like made it, starts getting billboards and all that stuff. And we were like, we can't pivot before we even try to like go to market. So like, let's really try to dive down on this. And then we're like, well, instead of diving down, let's just bail. And so that's what we did.
Good. I invested in Neighbor, which is, they're doing well. They just got Andreessen Horowitz invested in them, their Series A, 10 million. So the whole idea of storing your crap in someone else's garage is a viable thing right now. And you can go do it on neighbor.com.
Yeah.
So that's a plug. That wasn't a sponsored plug.
No, this is sponsored. I'm sure I'll hit them up for, I don't know, a couple grand, I feel like is at least
some affiliate. Yeah. No, but your idea is a good one. And I think it's one of those ideas as an entrepreneur, every time I'm walking to a game and I see all those driveways or anything, it's just not even a game. It's any time where you see space, but you can't park there. You just wish, that there's a solution.
Yeah.
It can be built. It's not impossible, but what you found out and everyone finds out is that when a problem is as infrequent as parking that way, needing that park, you can't build the network effect fast enough. It's too expensive to build a network effect to try to solve for a problem that is too infrequent. So, you realize that like that's how the DoorDashes and the even the Neighbors and some of these other ones, Ubers, that's why they made it, is the problem was frequent enough. I need food now. I need cash now. The parking though is frequent, but that type of parking isn't. And so I'm wondering who's won on just the parking. Like, I still don't think of any one app when I think about parking. You know what I mean?
And I think it's really hard in a Utah market where the expectation is you're not going to pay to park unless you're going like downtown Salt Lake City. If you're in like Chicago or San Francisco or New York City, there are, I think most the apps that have penetrated have been the ones that have teamed up with parking places as a reservation system,
Yeah, but those are, and I think there are some big ones like Park Hero. I can't remember all, but they're usually regionalized. They're usually solving like one piece of it. Like they partnered with parking establishments. I know a guy locally in Provo that was trying to build a way to like list church parking lots and stuff in crowded university areas. So I've seen other things, but I haven't seen anyone really turn the distribution model from like, I have a place to park, I can list it here. I haven't seen an app yet that allows you to do that anymore.
We thought about university. We thought, oh, maybe call it front row parking, because if you go to BYU, like all of the like parking every single morning is a disaster. But
interesting.
but
Well, you did do it.
the good thing about failing on that
someone.
and losing the 10 grand that I lost on the development of that, which isn't that much because I got it developed in India, is I learned never develop anything in India. And after talking to you, don't even think about an app unless you have like $1 million minimum to like get it. Like you can't like limp into an app and just expect that the concept just catches wildfire, you know?
That was our conversation. I gave you my classical don't build the app.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. You know what though? It's such a good experience. First of all, you spent $10,000. That is so cheap. And to learn that, I have the roster of people who spent $100,000 to $1 million and failed is in the hundreds right now that I talk to. And so that's a cheap lesson, right? That was a lot less than your law degree, and you learned a lot. So I would say still though, I'm always going to say don't build the app only because there needs to be a warning sign. There needs to be warning labels on for entrepreneurship on this type of project that no one else is going to tell you don't build the app. So even if I think you should build the app, I still have to be the one person that tells you don't build the app. Most people do it anyway. No one I've ever told not to build the app has ever listened. It's never happened once. They listened. But 2 years later, everyone has come back to me and said, I should have listened. So that's the irony.
I listened. I bailed like after you, I talked to Techstars. I like went and had an interview with them and I was like, I'm not going to go like move for 3 months. Like it was a good enough warning marker for me to be like, yeah, I'm out on this.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's expensive. It doesn't always have to be millions, but I went in about $400,000 into our first app my first app I tried. I learned a lot from it. I probably told you that story. Not only did I learn a lot, but I did pivot into a marketing agency essentially that helped get installs for apps, and that became a part of Disney. No more than 3 years later after starting that app, I was working for Disney after an acquisition because of what we learned and what we did to drive installs for that app. The app never made money. It was a big, one-way wiring to a dev shop. Nothing ever came back the other way. But learned a ton and learned enough to build another business. And that's the way things usually go. That's why I'll always put a precursor. I'll always say don't build an app, but if you're going to do it, it's one of the greatest experiences you can have. You're going to learn a lot, and it's usually people trying to build apps are usually you and me, or people working at a job 24/7, doing the day job, and it's like it's for some reason it's most common like entrepreneurial light that turns on, like, I got an app idea. It can be a mom, it can be a dad, it can be a grandma sometimes, but they think of their business. A lot of people's first kind of business idea is in the form of an app, and that's because we're very familiar with phones. We weren't able to do this one thing with our phone, so we think this is genius. I got to tell my cousins about this and go find a developer. This is huge. Sign an NDA because this is so big. Yeah. And bless their hearts. This is like 10% of America. Bless all of their hearts. That's where I started. That's where we all start. And we think we're going to change the world, and we think our idea is so secret we can't share it. I've learned so much. It's been 10 years since I was in that kind of, I got an app idea. This is 2010, right? This is when the iPhone store, the App Store is, had just kind of been launched in 2008, I think. And there are stories of people making dumb apps. They're kids sometimes. They're making hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so now it's like Shark Tank, kind of, Kickstarter type of feeling. America can make a business, and it just starts right with an idea. And this is when I swear entrepreneurism became almost a meme. Everyone can do it. And it's true, everyone can, but it's not as easy as you got an app idea. So.
What was when you put 400 in, what was was it a failure to gain traction, or you started figuring out the unit economics just aren't going to make sense? what was the decision to let's pivot and let's make one last attempt versus like, let's just bail?
Yeah. Well, the thing is I had a lot of success. So, in one of the hardest things, and that is acquisition of app downloads, is hard to do. We started and we couldn't really figure out how to get downloads, and all of a sudden we paid a social media influencer. Like, you hear that all the time now. It wasn't a thing in 2012. Instagram was a baby. There's barely influencers being born yet. They were kind of coming on YouTube and Instagram, barely. We paid this teenager who had 100,000 followers on a fashion account to talk about our app. And I thought the app had a bug because all the content, mine was a social media app actually. It's called Voto, V-O-T-O. I thought there was a bug because all that stuff started happening. All the numbers that, like, the content that usually had 12 votes, it was voting on photos is what it was. And usually it's like 12 to 10 votes per piece of content. All of a sudden it was 120. So I thought it was off by I thought, guys, we're off by a magnitude of 1. There's zeros behind everything now. So go change it. No, what had happened is this influencer posted about the app and brought in 2,000 new users in a matter of minutes. And I'm just like, I call my partner. I'm like, who did you pay? How did that go down? I paid this girl $20 on Venmo, or PayPal at the time, PayPal. And I'm like, can you do that again? Are there more of this type of person? And she's like, there's hundreds. They're all kicking me. There's this app called Kick. And that's how influencers on Instagram would communicate and take payments. And they just shout you out. They just post a stupid image and say, go download this app right now. Like classical, dirty influencer marketing. It drove 1 million installs for our app within a few months. So I didn't have an install problem. Most apps don't even get to touch what I had, which is I had 1 million users. Most apps don't even touch that. And this is why this is why I say apps are hard. I was ranked above Twitter. I was up there with Tinder. I was up there with Vine at the time at one point, but it doesn't really matter. Like, I had no way to monetize. I had not raised money, and I couldn't raise money. I've had a hard time raising money, especially when they found out I was acquiring users in this way. They didn't love it. Although now is like how everyone acquires users. So I decided to abandon it when it was costing me too much money, and I did not know how to flip on monetization. I tried a few things, some paid features, but you have to have real critical mass to start becoming a social network. You have to have like 10 million users with the chance of having 100 million users within a few months. Like that's what the investors want to see. And I was just in this middle ground that was like interesting, but not enough interest to take the type of money San Francisco wanted to hand out. And I regret it. Sometimes I think I should have gone a little harder, met more people, got more into my vision. But what happened is we were contacted by one of the biggest apps in the world to work for them directly, help them get the installs that we were getting for our app. And that contract, it was up to $18 million to do that for them. And we said, it was a company in London. We said, I could either be spending $30,000, $40,000 a month on developing my app, or I could take a contract and make, $1 million a month. So we did the latter.
And then that business of driving traffic for app downloads, that's what Disney ultimately acquired?
Correct. So we pivoted, started a whole new company. My partner Voto became the CEO of that company. It was a marketing company. She just kicked butt, found a lot of customers for us. We drove not just installs, but then we started driving engagement, in general for brands, regular brands. So it started off with apps, then it turned into working with movie studios and other things. And we had a list of all the influencers on Instagram, Vine, Facebook, Snapchat. And we took that, and that was kind of our roster of talent that we could point at any one thing, and we'd pay them money and they would blow something up. And that was the beauty of 2012, 13, 14, is you could do that back in the day. And so Disney had just kind of made a big bet on YouTube, but they didn't have any Instagram, Facebook influencer network. And so that company bought bought us. When they had just bought the YouTube company, Maker Studios, and then purchased us. And it was a great run at Disney. Loved it. Loved all that I learned. The people, went to Culver City, lived right there in LA, but I was really not attracted to how influencer marketing was going down. I started to realize like I had sinned. I had really started something that was ugly, inauthentic, not good for the world, and was going to change. It was going through a metamorphosis, and I wanted to be on the good side of that change. So that's what I started Woolly, my company I work with today.
Which is C-commerce. Go into a little bit about what was it that, in terms of starting something that you didn't like what it turned into, an influencer marketing, just that I know it from a business side, and also my wife is somewhat of an influencer. We don't really do paid collaborations. We monetize through product that we sell direct to consumer. So it's really more of a direct to consumer brand. Was it just the phoniness of like, hey, I use this product that I don't use, or just the fact that they really don't a lot of times drive the numbers that you think that they're going to drive? If you pay somebody 10 grand, it can just flop.
Yeah, all the above, right? It started to be specifically working with Subaru. They wanted us to find people who love the brand, and I remember paying $2.5 million to a few influencers, two of them here locally, and in Utah, and we literally bought the cars for these kids for the length of the campaign, and it was called Meet an Owner. That was the campaign. It was Meet an Owner. Well, they were owners for like one day, and then started making content of this Subaru, and I'm just like, this is fail. This is such a fail. Like, should have claims against it. Like, the FTC should be after us and shutting it down. This is so fake. And yet that's all it is. That was all we were ever doing, was calling up the same roster, seeing if they would shout out this Scott's Lawn products, or, freaking Party City stores, or whatever the crap it was.
Yeah, you're like a clickbait. You're like in-person clickbait.
Oh, yeah. It's like, please, someone, like, I still wish I could make a documentary and just expose the whole thing, because it's just, but I think everyone already knows now. That's a good thing, is it's out. Cat's out of the bag. Everyone knows it's not real. But the thing with the influencer marketing is, back in the day, you didn't really have to say that it wasn't real. Like, we couldn't really, the FTC wasn't really coming down on it. And so you could just say whatever you wanted. Kids didn't know it was ads, and so that, and then you have a decreasing, I wish I could draw this graph, but like, here's what I paid 2012 for an influencer, right? And does this over time until we're like where we're at right here. And then what has happened on the effectiveness of these posts? So cost has gone like this. Effectiveness has an inverse curve. So you're just like, how is a marketer still doing this? I love arguing with these influencer tech companies and influencers about this, because it's hilarious. Like, it was an okay deal back here when we were getting $20 to get 2,000 installs. It was incredible. And the effectiveness was here. At some point in like 2016, the lines crossed. You're probably getting what you would do, paying an ad on Facebook. You were probably getting the equivalency. And then it went like this.
Yeah.
And so now it's just, that's out of whack. And COVID has really brought that on. COVID has manifested that, like, in a world of pulling back, like, we're not going to still spend the silly money on influencers. Like, they're going to kill what they eat, or they're going to eat what they kill. Meaning, they go out there and we'll give them like performance contracts, and if they can move the needle, we'll pay them.
Right.
And that's like, we're seeing a lot of brands go that way now.
And a lot of influencers they've gotten so used to, like, give me the 20 G's up front. Like, I'm not going to post for product, like that's like what the miners do. That's like what the micros do. I'm not going to be a micro. I'm not going to slum it and like actually get paid for what I drive. You want me to be an affiliate with my 1 million followers? Like, no way.
Yeah. Right. And they're officially unemployed as it stands right now, most of them. So when I saw the influencer recession article, I was just laughing, like, about time. It's the one group that I'm okay with getting hit by this COVID thing, because it's like it needed to come back to reality. It was so inflated.
So how does C-commerce flip that on its head, and Wooly go about executing that? I mean, I want to know kind of how you started it, like the starting point of like.
Yeah, I'll tell you the whole thing, because there's really a really straightforward analog of what happened. So I'm finishing up at Disney, and I actually started the company, and I did while I was there. I didn't do anything illegal or anything, but I started working with a dev who called me from Arizona. We first met at Disneyland. I got his family in, and we hung out. And he had been doing software, and he's like, Scott, I want to co-found a company, and I'm very capable, and you seem to be a good biz dev, entrepreneur. Like, you can start. I need the idea. I'll build it for you. You can't tell that to someone like me. You can't. A developer, like that's a dream come true for a non-coder, non-engineer. And you have a senior software developer say, like, I've got the skills. Like, what do you want your house to look like? I'll build it. I'm like, get ready. So I was like telling them all these ideas and stuff, and then finally I tell them, like, we shot down a few of them. I want to do like Kickstarter for birthdays, like, it was the weirdest thing. Like, but now Facebook does it actually, kind of like, I have a list of, like, we looked back and saw all these ideas we brainstormed over a short month, and then finally we landed on this one where it kind of went back to Subaru. Why couldn't I find the Subaru enthusiasts? Why didn't Subaru know those people? Why did they have to come all the way to Disney agency to have us source talent that would then charge? This talent would charge us double what they would charge Subaru direct, because we were Disney or whatever. They charged that we would go and double mark it up to Subaru, and it wasn't even authentic. It was crap talent, in my opinion. Why did that happen? Versus Subaru just going to their network of enthusiasts who own their cars and drive them, and finding talent from their own enthusiast pool. Why did that happen? And come to find out, like, brands don't do that. They actually, the bigger they are, the more disconnected they are from their customer base, and they rely on agencies and to do all their marketing, and even to do their influencer marketing. But influencer, to me, like, the strongest influence is your customer. And so our whole first software was helping a brand find their customers who were influential, so the brand could kind of directly build that relationship with them and wouldn't outsource it to these stupid agencies. And I'm saying stupid because it really is stupid. You're taking one of the most valuable, like, relationships you have, who is going to be a voice of your brand, and you're putting like layers and layers between it. And so you see now today, like, what I used to do just isn't as common, because brands are figuring it out. Like, we want evergreen talent who love us to be our spokespeople. And so what I saw then, it's kind of already transpired, but I built a software around it at first to help you discover. So all we would do is we take your customer list and translate it to who these people were on social media. That was kind of our first product. Shoot in your email list from Shopify or from newsletters or whatever, and we'll spit out who they are on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, whatever. And that was really easy to do 4 years ago. The data was more readily available. Since then, you've had a just restriction on all access for a company like mine, which is fine. We pivoted away from that main core product, and we built C-commerce. And that, what we believe C-commerce is our finding. Well, real fast, our findings was influencers are great, but they're not always these people you think they are. They're not the people who have 100,000 followers. We found out that I'm working with some companies like Purple and Solomon, that some of the best influencers don't even have social media. They're just these sharers, these people that are just anxiously sharing and talking about it. So we moved the whole product away from like clout of social media and just created ways that word of mouth can happen, that you can promote and track word of mouth happening at your brand, at the brand level, and encourage your customers to talk about you. It's very different than what I started as, and it's gone to probably the most true form of how we share and how we make content and how we're all creators and we're all fans of something, and we all have influence among our peers about something, right? All of us, I don't care who you are. My 14-year-old daughter is influential to about 4 girls. And if she does something, those 4 girls are going to buy. That's a lot more than some of these influencers that we paid $10,000 to brought in revenue. It's a lot more. The girl doesn't have Instagram, my daughter.
And so does Wooly try to build a financial incentive for somebody who has influence, or just tries to create? Because then you start getting into, I mean, Gary Vee always talks about, like, he's obsessed with the 40-year-old mom that's kind of like the head hen of her neighborhood, whether she's kind of like what you're talking about, like that mom who kind of sets the, like, what they're reading in book club, and like the Cadillac that everyone else is driving, like who that woman is that influences.
These mavens, these motherly neighborhood mavens that kind of trend set.
Yeah. And so does Wooly try to build the financial incentive that, if use my Subaru link code, like basically like affiliate programs down to like
Correct.
the micro.
We do have that. We are, e-commerce means customer commerce, and we're coining it, but it's kind of been around, or customer to customer. Let's admit that MLM had it figured out in the 70s. They just had some things wrong. They had trust wrong. They had incentive was off. So there's, in forming this perfect thing, this thing that we think is the future of commerce, you have a lot of things to borrow from, a lot of ingredients, a lot of things that have already been tried: referral programs, affiliate, influencer, MLM. None of them have really penetrated more than like a 10% of any of our, like if you take an average subset of people, and like, how many of you done MLM? It's gonna be 10% over here. How many of you guys like actively do referral program? 10% over here. Who's an affiliate? 2%, right?
Yeah.
Who's an influencer? Who does ambassador and influencer marketing? 2% over here. What about this 90%, or whatever's left over after that? Who's going to reach all those? Because guess what? They're all buying products and they're all sharing products. What's the platform for that remaining group that's easy enough to use? The incentive is right. You don't feel scammy sharing. It's top of mind. It's like it's on their phone, or it's not on your phone. You don't have to be on social media. You don't have to be, think of yourself as an affiliate. You don't have to be a super crazy brand lover. What is out there for the rest of us? And that is what Wooly's building. We're building that platform for everybody. And it's going to be, there's going to be a chance to be incentivized, but there's also going to be the chance to I just bought this awesome Traeger grill. You're at my house, we're barbecuing. You like it. I mean, it's right there.
Yeah.
There's the Traeger. I'm going to use it tonight. If you like the Traeger, here's a code. Buy it from me. Or here's my profile on Wooly. See my review, my storytelling that I do around the Traeger, some of my content, and by the way, my lawnmower and other things is all there. If you want to buy it right there, that's like a little micro Amazon. You can buy it right there. Better than you would be able to buy it online, actually. Cheaper. You get a little bit of money off. So the first thing is, like, I want to be empowered as an owner to give my friends and family like a little bit of a deal. I don't care if I get money from Traeger or not. I really don't. If I get something, it will mean a little bit more. If I got store credit, or I got some extra pellets. So we enable the brand to pick that thing, to pick the level of incentive they would want to give to their customers for sharing. But if Traeger starts to give me a few $100s every time I refer it, that's awesome. I might share it more, but I might not actually like the product. Right. I might like the $200. And so there's a real good balance of, like, do I actually like the thing? Am I being authentic? Is this something I'm sharing because it actually works for me? Or is the program so good that I share it whether I like it or not? And that's MLM, right? MLM doesn't have to, the product doesn't have to work. It's the opportunity. And so that they put the incentive way too high. And so we're formulating. I'm just a baker. That's all I'm doing. Scott Paul, I've got a bakery, and I'm trying to make a perfect donut or a perfect loaf of bread. And that's e-commerce is when it pops out, it's going to be like a better Amazon, a better loaf of bread, hopefully.
No, that's the interesting thing. Just hearing you talk, and I know, and hearing you talk, the way that I go about, especially on a, y'all have revenue, right? Customers, or you're still pre-revenue?
Woolie's been around for 3 years. Yeah, we've done millions of dollars in sales.
That's awesome. The interesting thing hearing you talk is like you also have, I can tell that you're so much more interested in the long game of it. Like when I usually am thinking about a business, I'm like, what's the fastest way to find product market fit, like minimum viable product, like worry about the ethics and the like, whether this is the right incentive structure, like all of those are 5 years from now, Raleigh's problem. Like I have to start with like traction, you know, and if that traction leads me to somewhere that I don't ultimately want to be, like I'll pivot down the road, you know what I mean? But the interesting thing is, and it's probably from your time, I would guess, doing like you've already kind of gone through an exit and you've been in and you've seen the end game at Disney with doing something that you don't ultimately want to do, that you're just, seems like you have another layer of analysis where it's not just what does the customer want, but like, how do I have this be what I want it to be, which is different, which is a harder question because it's 2 layers. It's what is like, it's a Venn diagram of what you want, what the customer wants, and you're like trying to middle it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'm thinking about your audience real fast too, to answer this next part or to talk about this. But if you're at a day job, you don't have the luxury of like, I can't wait to take over this industry. You know, you have this idea on the side. It's hard to think long term when all you're looking for is probably a supplemental income and a chance to arbitrage. You know, I'd love to be able to sell. My brother is at ExxonMobil, all of them are, and all they really want right now is like, can I make an extra few $1,000s? He's Airbnb his place, he does this. That's like, it's just arbitrage, right? A lot of those opportunities are arbitrage. So it's really hard. I have the luxury, and I'm going to call that a privilege, of being able to think about like, what do I want to do to an industry 10 years down the road? Because that's kind of my day job. My day job is breaking systems. I am a startup founder, raise venture capital, trying to build SaaS. Like, if I'm not thinking that way, I won't get support or money. I can't talk to anybody. I can't raise another Series A or whatever I do. But to your audience who's like, I'm at Adobe, I'm at, you know, who's down there in Texas, I'm at Southwest Airline. I don't know what everyone's doing down in your area, or who your audience is, but people should first be starting like, how do I arbitrage a simple opportunity? Build one unit of a you know, a jump house. And I'm actually looking to do those things too. Like, do I want to build a little bounce house in my neighborhood with a retail pad and bring in $2K, $3K a month? You know, that's viable, and that's a thing too. Like, that's where you got to start. But if you have an audience that's really looking to like leave their job, like just kind of disappear from corporate life and go break into, you know, they want to start something and it's big, and it's like your parking idea. You can't side hustle a parking idea. Like, when you go in to do that, like you saw, if you're going to go to Techstars, you're going to take their money, you got to be all in, and you got to be a category like builder. You got to go build a new category and do things that haven't been done before. I get all my excitement from that. So that's familiar to me, but it's not the only way to do it. There's definitely ways to make money doing lifestyle businesses, to buy and sell on Amazon, to find a trend. And sometimes those turn into big category busters. Like, you can actually take your lifestyle company and create a new category. Like, in your world of entertainment, that's what that Case guy did, Lawrence, with Circus Tricks, right? I mean, he wrapped those things up and became the trampoline god. You can, and it started in Fresno as like one-off, right? It wasn't, and trampoline parks had already been around. He didn't do anything new, but he somehow, you know, kind of just took over. And so, anyway, there's we talk about this forever, but like, I just want to make sure your audience realizes I'm not advocating that you have to like be thinking in the future and like breaking, have 10-year plan and trying to take over and know all your incumbents really well. Like there's so many viable ways to make a side hustle and then turn that into something big as well.
Yeah. One thing that I usually tell people is don't think about something that will change the world. Think about something that'll change your life to start, because it's impossible to build an Uber like from 6 p.m. to midnight and every other weekend, you know what I mean? And I've never taken venture capital, but once you take venture capital, you're in the Olympics and you're like training in the Olympics and you're on an Olympic schedule. Like you can't be Michael Phelps like by night, and that like you have to be fully dedicated to the thing that you've taken outside money on.
That's a very good point. I haven't thought about that, and I'm a crappy Olympian because I've taken their money, and I don't train like Phelps, so I got to figure something out there.
How do you manage? Because you have outside interests. You're doing a lot of stuff. I think it's impossible to. I can't imagine myself being just laser focused on. It's something that I actually try to work on. How do you manage outside business interests, weighing that against kind of your responsibilities to these people that you've taken money from?
Yeah, I don't weigh it. I do a lot of things outside of my main company, and I don't think it's always the right thing to do. At the same time, they care about me as a founder and want me to do what I do. Like they're not checking hours. I'm not punch clocking in.
Right.
They have to trust that what I'm doing is always the best thing for me and my company and the one they backed. And so I have really good investors. So like they really get that some people wouldn't be as on board because I popped out another company during this COVID time, and it raised a lot of questions probably to a handful of people that know that I took VC, but I'm unapologetic. And honestly, like I gave up my salary. I gave up a lot right in the last 3 months to help our team survive this thing. And so I have the right to, in my opinion, the right to pursue a side hustle, even as a startup founder who's taking capital. But as we're kind of hibernating through this more than impossible time that everybody's in, I gave up my salary and in so doing also took some hours and put it into another company that is growing right now. It just happens to be in the making N95 respirators, right? We found a way to make that locally in the U.S. and I was approached by an engineer and said, this is the right time for me to do something with my skills really fast. And so I did that. When this is over, I'm going to go right back to Wooly, but it definitely raises some heads, but most of those people aren't my investors. Those are people that are like, how does he do that? That's not fair, blah, 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 blah. He should be suffering like me during this time. I'm like, no, I'm going to do what's best for my well-being and my mental health. That's the best for Wooly.
Yeah. No, I think
for my family. If I don't have money for my family, I'm not going to be around for anybody.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've taken money, not venture capital money, but outside money to build these parks. And it's something that I think about, not because anybody's ever said anything to me. It's more of like it feels more of like a guilt-based thing that is just like internal that I've worked on in terms of like I know that if I find an outside interest that I don't pursue, and suppress that, it ends up being 10 times worse. Cause then it feels more like the job that I exited, it feels more like, oh, I'm doing this thing that there's this other thing that I want to do that I can't because I took money from these other people. Versus, and like I said, it has nothing to do with them saying, Raleigh, what are you posting interview? Why are you talking to other people during coronavirus? It's just self-imposed of like, oh, maybe I could have taken this hour to work on something. But I've come to where I've come to, and it is wherever I feel energy and energized, like pursue it and explore it until it comes to a natural end or turns to something.
Yeah.
So as your, this is an interesting question that I ask people every once in a while. I think, where are you at? I think you go through phases in your life where you're focused on either learning, you're focused on legacy, or you're focused on lettuce, the 3 L's.
Legacy, lettuce, or what one? Learning, legacy, or lettuce. Hold on.
Learning, legacy, or lettuce. Lettuce is money, but it starts with an L. So
yeah, that's a good one.
You know, I'm
or loot.
Which where do you think you're at right now?
Well, the L, lucre, filthy lucre.
Oh, lucre's way better. I like that, actually. That'll be in my book. I'll attribute it.
Thank you. Let me think about that.
Or do you push back against the premise? Do you push back against the premise entirely that they can all be pursued?
No. I like it. It's another one of those, just a diagram of like over the years, like 20 to 30 was learning and lettuce. You're doing them all, right? I'm in school and I'm trying to make cheese. 30 to 40, that's where I'm at right now. It's been a lot more. I've made the most lettuce, all the lettuce, but in these 10 years, none of it in the first 10 years. So that was just totally trying to make lettuce, but mostly learning. And I would say in the last few years, does legacy come to mind of what that like. And that's that higher self. That's this like thing that you try to make decisions that are that don't have a financial factor and it's all the applied learning that you have. And so it'd be like starting something, that's I think really when you just start to build, like I have groups now that I just meet with people that it's not a financial interest. It's just, I want to gather around people and be present and talk. I have everyone come over tonight for spa nights up here where we do our sauna, hot tub, fire, and we just chat. It's just like, I feel like it's something that could have been done in the 1800s. It's just like, that to me is like the legacy work, is like building much richer friendships, talking about much bigger problems. I mean, of course we're going to talk business and stupid stuff, but I think I'm really, really getting ready to hunt down like what that means, that whole legacy thing. I don't even think that most people, I just don't think about that, right? I haven't thought about that. I've been running so fast. I don't really know what I'm about. What's my personal, like, what is my why? And this is kind of, I think, the 40s to 50s. I think everything I do going forward is going to have a much, be driven a lot more by that legacy question or whatever that encompasses. But it's different than the lucre or the lettuce. The learning doesn't, that always should be, I mean, almost always should be applying. In fact, the most learning comes when you're just applying, and it's not, you're like, I don't, for whatever reason, the most learning comes when the most lettuce comes and possibly the legacy. I mean, it's just an accelerated thing. I feel like I was learning when I'm going to University of Utah. None of that is pertinent. None of the things I learned at a school did me, and you could probably speak to this on law, but all of my learning has come through, the going out and the just the time tested, like gut stuff that you're like, okay, if someone kind of acts like that at the beginning of a relationship, there's a good chance they're a narcissist, or there's a good chance they're this, and I'm going to get screwed. And like, I've done enough. Why do I feel like this is not right? Oh, because I've been screwed 5 times from the same personality. That's the learning that comes when you're doing lots of deals really fast, and you're hiring, and you're firing, and you're making things go down. And that's learning. I guess it's passive learning. It's not like I want to go understand the philosophy of Kant, but I still think that's the learning that's really important, that we lose a lot of in our, we want, that's the best thing I can tell your audience is, like, the one thing you're going to learn by trying to make lettuce on your side hustle is learning. You're going to get, for a lot cheaper than your MBA, you're going to get schooled. And that's why I would never hesitate for anyone to go use their savings, $10,000, $20,000 of it, and blow it on a startup. Much better than blowing it on a guru class for $5,000. Much better than blowing it on a vacation. Much better than blowing it on a car or a stupid thing that will give you zero learning, really. Go blow it on a startup.
Yeah.
Amazing idea, in my opinion.
No, I agree with you. And I think people want, the hard part is people listen and they consume because they feel like they can go through the process without failing and they can be in the arena without getting punched in the face. And I've yet to, and no $5,000 course saves you from that, unfortunately. But I feel like we could go for 3 hours. But the last question, you know everything that you know now. So you have the learnings. You're 27 years old, you're working a corporate job. You have a wife, you have some debt, you have some responsibilities. What are some areas that you go after and ideas that you would try to start figuring out how to hack together? And then the second part of that are, what are some big categories that you just wouldn't touch? You kind of mentioned trying to build an Uber, Yeah.
This is tough because I have so much feelings on, it's pretty much just asking me, like, what do I like right now? And so the age, I don't know if the age changes this answer at all.
Well, it only constrains your time. You don't have unlimited time to pursue something, right? And you don't really have unlimited capital. You can't go raise money. You're in a job that you have responsibilities for.
Yeah.
So I'm constraining your time, and I'm constraining your ability to go out and raise money and try to execute on something full time. Outside of that, though, you have no constraints. I should have sent you this question beforehand.
First of all, I would start to get active on LinkedIn, and not in an obnoxious way, but I would start to create a voice for myself. Doesn't matter where you're working. LinkedIn is such an interesting platform for and look at it. It only appeals to a handful of people, but it's an interesting platform to learn, to network, and it's a virtual conference that's going on all the time, and most of the people you're going to meet there you don't want to meet, but 10% of them could make the difference of I use LinkedIn for the last 5, 6, 7 years pretty religiously. It is solely responsible for almost every hire I've made, every deal I've closed, and we're talking lots of deals, people I've met, people I've come across with, the VCs that we got. I can get things now because I've established a voice on that platform that gives me personality that I don't have in an analog world. That digital personality, that digital presence allows me to get clout with VCs and other people, exposure for new ideas. I launched 2 companies exclusively on LinkedIn. One's called Tangible. It's a school for e-commerce, and the other one is called Mia Como. It's a company making a post-COVID sanitization products, masks and crap. So that's to me, before you even have an idea, go start to build a place that you can talk about that idea. Go start to build even a small network where you can start to engage, find other people who have shared ideas. It's for all those reasons. That's where I started at 27. That's where and it's not, I'm not encouraging the Instagram muscle guy. I'm encouraging you to become, to kind of hear your voice, get used to creating content, talking about things. And then when that thing comes, you have a place to vet it. You have your friends and family, but LinkedIn's a really good place to kind of start to own your why and tell people what you're doing, and then getting that feedback. People will message you. You will meet people that will supply you with that thing, develop that thing for you, offer to do this. You'll meet a lot of crap that you got to get really good at it, just getting away. But I just can't think it's just such an interesting world that we now have a always on digital conference networking event called LinkedIn. So that's where I'd start. That's my like little thing. I'm not even like, it's funny, I'm not advocating anything else, but that's kind of what I'm trying to tell everyone here, so that you kind of get the base, like you kind of, that's how you get buttoned up to go get crazy about these things. And people don't want to share their ideas. They think that's a problem to do. Go look at my post today. I shared one of my ideas that I want to do. I'm sharing another one that I want to do. I share everything. I want these things to exist. I don't have time to do them all. And you know what usually happens? I share it and they're like, this already exists. And I'm like, great. I couldn't find it with Google. You just show me where it is. Now I can go and buy it or use it or subscribe to it. A thing I want to do though, if I had a long-term time, lots of time, restrained on money, this isn't a big picture thing. This is a small thing. I want to take the Japanese onsen. These are like the spas that are in Japan that are, very gender defined. Like women go here, men go here, but they're just places to relax. They're just the opposite of everything American right now. And I think men need this. I think men need to go to a place where the phone isn't in their hand, and they sit down and they either talk or don't talk, and they sip a tea and they chillax, and they can do that in the middle of the day if they needed to, away from work. Mental health is off the charts as far as being a pretty significant factor in like what's messing up a lot of people's days right now, and anxieties and suicide. It's bad. It's bad in the entrepreneur scene. It's bad in the startup scene. It's bad in the tech scene. It's bad in Utah, where I'm at. And I'm a part of a thing called Room Here, which is a mental health like nonprofit, and there's a lot of them coming out. But I don't want this to be another like, what do you call it, like network of therapies or a organization that helps talk about mental health. I want to be a product that like just directly can lift mental health, whether that's a drink or a spa. So mine is a Japanese onsen. I want to bring them to the middle America, right into a strip mall, but it's a sanctuary that you leave the iPhone noises, everything going on, and you feel like you've entered 18th century samurai like onsen. Oh yeah. So I'm gonna do it.
Is that like a king spa? In Texas we have king spas where there's like, I've never been to one, but there's like 12 different, like you go to like a salt spa and then a cold spa and then a hot, like all within one, like you go from different spas.
Yeah, it is a lot like that. Yeah, onsen usually it's a hot natural, like hot water, but yeah, there's like salt. I want to put a salt room in and a cold spa, different temperatures, but I got to go see this king spa. And this is exactly why I share everything. Cause like, look, it might already exist. Why not just franchise one that exists?
Yeah, no,
I just want it to exist. I don't want to do all the hard work.
When you come to Texas, stay at my house. We're close to King Spa, so that's first. But second, I started doing this same thing on LinkedIn. Most people, when they get an idea, they want to protect it. They want an NDA signed before anybody works on it, before they tell anybody. I've shared a couple ideas that I've had on LinkedIn. And the great thing is I get a bunch of responses, and it's just like completely out of my system. And I have like no desire to work on it once it's shared. You know what I mean? It's like, I can move on.
Yeah. That's such a good point. Looks like King Spa is something popular in Texas, temporarily closed, obviously. And I can tell you from the first glance of going to their website, it's not my thing, but it's cool. Like I will go study it, but it does immediately kind of speak to, it speaks to wellness, but every image is, a female getting massaged. it doesn't have the Japanese. If you were to see my site, mine's starting for men. I'm not going to lie. There's not a female allowed in my thing.
Yeah.
And this is going to sound very against the gender fluidity world we live in. But the reason I don't go to spa right now is because they're full of women, and they're not really accommodating to men. And women don't go to to certain male, bar or tattoo parlor or whatever. There are things that are clearly gender defined. I don't get my nails done at a there's things that we're still there's no rule, but there really is a rule. I don't need there's probably nowhere for me to go get a Brazilian if I wanted one here in town, but I could want one, right? But they're gender defined. They're really gender. They're just kind of and so what I'm going for my own sen is this one's for men, ladies, females of the world, women. You have lots of spas. They're all over. I see them everywhere. There's all sorts of them. They're everywhere.
Yeah. No,
I can't find one.
My wife has tried to get me to go to King Spa, and it's all everyone's naked, and there's this whole the whole I guess European Asian culture that I'm not used to, but also it feels like a very feminine experience that I don't have a huge desire to experience,
Yeah.
But
well, you'll have to come to my spa when it comes out and see what you think. See if it's what you have in mind. But
as someone who's
I'm going to do it.
So I guess you grow that through franchising, because as somebody who's been, with your dad and Momentum and all that stuff, but I can't wait to be less exposed to brick and mortar expansion models than I currently am.
I bet. Well, so here's the irony is, I'm not doing this one for scale, so it's probably more legacy. I'm not sitting there thinking, how do I get to number 2, number 2? How do I get to unit number 3? I want one to exist. I want it to be important. I want it to be meaningful. I want it to be community. I want it to solve a problem. I want it to be a place for men to check out for a short moment of time during their work and rejuvenate and be okay with rejuvenation. Even that word, even wellness, physical, mental wellness, just having that being vulnerable about that we need stuff like that. Yeah. And the gym, it shouldn't be the only 2 places that men go to chill out, or places that only raise our testosterone, which is a gym and I can't remember the other one, a sports bar, right? We just I guess if it wasn't already hectic enough, let's go put more noise in front of our eyes. It's okay to just check out and have silence. And so I'm going to bring that to the world, and it might be rejected, might not. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's my calling, and I'm going to do it. And and that's how things work. You just keep going off of that. And if that doesn't scale, and if it just becomes a passion project, and it takes most of my savings to do it, I'm committing to that ahead of time. I already know what my commitment is.
Yeah, that's amazing. I like I said, I know we're at time. I want to have you on again because I feel like I have another hour of talking about tangible and.
Okay.
Because I think is tangible. So if I'm at a job right now, is tangible an outlet? Will it take me from job no idea to scale e-commerce D2C?
Yeah, we had a lot of students. What Tangible is, it's an e-commerce 6-week program. 6 weeks, about 2 months, I think is what it is. We did it. Started last year, had 4 cohorts, and then about to start this year, and surprise, more than 50 people can't meet, or even 5 or whatever. So no cohorts. We're trying to go online, but what it is teaches you soup to nuts, what is e-commerce, how to get your manufacturer, your online store, your fulfillment, everything you would need to do to launch a company. And you meet the people who have companies that are doing it. There's our teachers are the people who have made it, the bona fide. They show you the inside of their system. We just shipped $20,000 product today. Tomorrow Black Friday, we're going to do 100 million. There are people doing that kind of crazy numbers. Come and show you all of the insides. And and I would say the student makeup is half. It's really cool. Half women, half men, almost all the time. Half are in a job, and then half are already kind of jumped and they're doing this thing full time. And a lot of them are couples. So one of the spouses is kind of running the full time thing, and the other one is full time job, security. Yeah. One is adventure. Is it a viable thing for if you're doing it? Yes, it's super viable, very affordable, very real. You're going to make, people that have come out of here have now raised real money. Some have amazing revenues. Most of them change their outlook from the class, just from what they learn in the class. They're doubling revenues by the end of the class, just by doing tweaks and listening to a few things people say. And we go deep into advertising, deep into, even just lawyers and setting up, how do you do it? How do you set something up for growth if you want to make it LLC or C Corp, what all these things are. So I love it. I can't speak enough about it, but that's been one of my legacy ones, I should say, it was not an intent to make money. But when you start off that way, it's hard. So it's a very high on the value, very hard to make it work as a business.
Is there a reason why you haven't tried to just make it because I've thought, my wife and I have done influencer stuff and we've done some D2C stuff. Is there a reason why you decided to make it more of a Dev Mountain model where it's in-person, hand-to-hand combat and, professor, instructor there in person versus just like an evergreen, record it once, record the lectures once?
We're doing the recording right now. So COVID pushed us to innovate. So we're moving towards the more evergreen, recorded stuff. But there's something special. There's something special about in person. I'm going to tell you, after this thing, I think we're going to see a resurgence to being together. And I can't do another Zoom call. I love this. It's good seeing you through the thing, but if I had a choice, I'd fly down and just do this in person. That's how much I crave that crap right now.
Yeah, no, I get it. All right, man. Well, I want to have you back on. I want to talk about tangible. My bet is that going evergreen will just crush it. I think that'll be amazing, but
I think it will, but I think it will dilute some of the special part of, I think we'll always keep a physical thing going because that's kind of the Harry Potter magic, right? Is we're in Hogwarts together and having adventures. The second you go digital, Hogwarts is gone, man. There's no digital Hogwarts, no matter how much you try. So,
where can people find? Best way to get a hold of you is LinkedIn, Scott Paul. Okay.
Yep.
All right, man. Well, we'll talk soon, and appreciate the time.
Thank you so much.
Peace.